That's why we do this.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Before we dive into today's video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got a lot of great content coming up, and I don't want you to miss any of it. So let's get started.
Nicely done, Josh.
Yeah, there you go. So, I did my part.
I don't know if it's
great time.
gonna get better. That might be the official
Just have to
intro.
keep reusing that one over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make that a sound bite right there, and then just have it tied to everything.
Yep. So, well, how is everybody feeling today?
I mean,
Well,
feeling about what, Let's,
Well, I'll point it in a particular direction because I do want to hear your opinion on this, Preston, because I know you've kind of mentioned it privately in the past. Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms,
yeah.
being a gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
I myself do not own a gun, but I am pro-gun
Right.
to a certain extent. So obviously a lot of the argument and statements that I'm seeing from friends and people are, shouldn't have been carrying or this and that. And
Yeah. There's several ways to talk through this, but what I look towards is if you're a proponent of the Second Amendment, right? Right to bear arms, and you've made previous arguments in the past, which again have already been made, where you have the right to possess a firearm under the Second Amendment, and then you get into a situation where, like yesterday, where you have that right and you're murdered for it, essentially. And there's other details to yesterday that I'm sure we're going to talk through, but I struggle with if you're going to argue for it and then you're going to blame the person for exercising that right as the reason why they're dead, then we have to have another discussion about what are we saying Second Amendment is then, if we're not saying that yesterday there was many elements to it that were fucked up. You can't argue both sides. You cannot. It's if you're arguing Second Amendment, then you have to feel a different way about yesterday than just saying this guy shouldn't have been carrying. No, that was his right.
Yeah.
So tell me why we are standing here today with having that happen yesterday.
Just to provide a little time context for everybody, we're recording this Sunday, January 25th, the day after Alex Pretti, am I saying that correctly?
So.
Was killed in Minneapolis while protesting
What's happening?
operation there in Minneapolis. But just wanted to provide that context in case anybody's watching this or listening to this at a later date.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
no,
Yeah,
thanks,
that's so with that, Josh, I want to hear your perspective on it as well. From the other side, it's like I'm a I own firearms, but I struggle with, again, this painted the perfect picture of, okay, you're saying we have the right to bear arms. Is the argument being made, which I'm sure it is, that this person shouldn't have been protesting the ICE's operations? Okay, well, there's other laws. Same case here. We can talk about those, but it's a long conversation is how I'm going to put it.
No, you're right. And I mean, again, yeah. So like from my own background, I grew up around guns. I grew up on a farm, up in North Carolina. So shooting guns was always something I grew up around, and I don't currently own a gun, not because I have a stance against it, but just because I've never felt the need to own a gun. I've looked at it.
Right.
I've talked with people and said, hey, if I go to buy one, what should I look at? And I just haven't gotten around to it. But when I see things like the shooting yesterday, I do immediately have the reaction of I should own a gun, not because I'm necessarily worried about someone coming in to rob me,
Right.
but because of what this current government is like. And that's dangerous because their guns are going to be bigger than my guns. I'm not going to win that fight when it comes down to it. But it does put that, just, that thought in there. And I mean, people are going to argue. People clearly see what they want to see in all these videos.
Correct.
Which is mind-boggling to me. But I guess it's the same way, some people can watch a Hollywood film and two people come away with the same, one person watches Star Wars and goes, the Empire had a good idea, whereas everybody else goes, no, the rebels. I mean, come on. I guess that's the same concept. I don't understand it sometimes for things that I think are black and white. I guess they're not, but people are going to say, the reason why he was shot was because he was carrying a gun, and he clearly, and I never, in the videos that I've seen, Greg, you shared one that I viewed yesterday. He never reaches for the gun. Not only that, even if he did reach for his gun, given the benefit of the doubt here, playing the other side, if he did reach for his gun, the gun was not in his possession when they shot him.
Right.
Clearly from multiple angles.
Yeah.
So that's
Go ahead, Greg.
That's kind of where I'm at. Again, I don't think you can really both sides this event that happened. I mean, you see a lot of the posts from a lot of people now where it's like you can be against immigration or for immigration policy, but there's obviously you can then also be against exactly how it's being handled. But if you just look at the specifics, that minute and a half in a vacuum, take out protesting, you take out anything else like this, you have 7 to 8 armed federal agents and one guy who's probably 6 foot, 200 pounds. But you have trained federal agents, and Kristi Noem yesterday in
Allegedly.
her press conference. Let's just take everybody for their word.
Mhm.
This guy was a de-escalating trainer. The guy who shot was a de-escalating trainer. You had 7 guys on top of this one guy. If with those 7 guys, they couldn't subdue him to then forcibly remove that firearm, then why the fuck are these guys even in there if they can't do what they're physically trained to do? But then going back to what you said, Josh, there's the reality. Like, this isn't 1999. There's multiple videos. We can slow down things. We can crystallize video. And that's the point, Josh. Even if you wanted this guy to die because you don't think people should be protesting, or you lean on that, they're impeding an investigation so you can be arrested, that's fine. Arrest the guy, detain the guy. But there's video evidence that man, Alex, his gun was taken away from him and then shot after the fact. So like that's it. Like, you can't, even if you wanted the guy dead, you can't condone or be okay with what happened. And the last thing I'll say, kind of starting off, is the people who are saying, well, he shouldn't be doing that, or, well, I'm smart enough that, what, I would just comply. Like, or the biggest one is like, well, why are
They
these
didn't
people
even want to comply to wearing a mask a couple years ago.
Well, yeah, 100%. But then the next question is, well, why are people protesting, people who are defrauding and stealing from you? Like, it's not just that they're protesting. It's all this other shit that's happened now. Whereas a United States citizen, even as you got to carry your fucking papers, like, and then their counter argument is like, well, just do it. It's easier to just do it. Well, look what's happened around the rest of the fucking world.
Right.
And we just do it.
It's being complicit, and I hate, constantly bringing up the Nazi World War II argument, but it in that atmosphere, if you're complicit to everything that is being delivered from the top, eventually you get to some terrifying point, right? And that, I think, is the part that I just don't understand, from the other, we'll call it the other angle of looking at all of this. is being complicit to this. This is the type of things that they would have stood up and screamed about forever, of why, like, the government has this much control. Like, what happened to small government and not having a whole lot of control, just letting us do what we want and please? That that mentality, for some reason, is gone. Or you stay silent and you just say, "Hey, this is my person that I wanted in the head office. Whatever happens, happens," and just put your hands up, which is absolute bullshit. It reminds me of it, every moment in the Obama administration, every moment in the Biden administration, like trying to push the narrative towards their own. And now it's like these things are happening. Well, so this is what you want? This is what you desired out of all this? I don't think that's true, but it's easier for them to stay silent than argue something or agree with the other side, which they never want to do.
No, everyone's too entrenched in the politics of being on a certain side that you would rather your fellow citizen, human being being shot and murdered in the street than to risk someone with the wrong genitals being on your kid's soccer team.
Yeah.
Which,
So I want to touch on the Second Amendment for 2 seconds, though, because I think
Yeah,
starting there,
go ahead.
I think was a really good way to talk about this. So think about the reasons, the reasons why the Second Amendment was created. Right. This is going way back, guys, way beyond before our time. But
Give us a history
it
lesson.
is, yeah, it is to. I'm reading from. We'll take Congress.gov here. Was created to ensure the security of a free state through citizen-based militias acting as
Mhm.
a check against federal tyranny and standing armies.
Yep.
Now, if you don't believe that what is happening is an element of federal tyranny, then you're going to say, well, this is all bullshit. Or the other argument for this is, okay, well, the Second Amendment was created for citizen-based militias. We don't have those anymore. Okay, well, this is the reason why it was stood up in the first place. So that is founding fathers right there. I don't understand how you can't look at that and say what happened yesterday with Alex flies in the face of that.
Yeah.
well,
To
I mean, look at the
his
NRA.
description of
I
everything.
mean, the NRA, who they came out with that statement. I don't have it in front of me, but they essentially were just parroting exactly what the federal government was saying, that
Yep.
he was there to cause harm, and although he was illegal carrying to a
Yeah.
member, that it shouldn't matter. And it's the hypocrisy for me. I mean, you
Yeah.
had
Well,
Kyle
they know
Rittenhouse
which
in that
party they
same
support
you had
more,
Rittenhouse
so
in that same fucking town walking
Yeah.
around with an assault rifle that wasn't registered to him. And
crossing
he's been
states,
on,
state lines.
it's pretty ridiculous. And then Josh, if you want to touch on anything else with the Second Amendment, because I have a question for you guys to go back to something that Preston touched
Nothing
on.
really. Second Amendment, I agree everything with Preston, and he, like I said, as someone who owns a gun and who myself not owning a gun, that's why I kind of put that forward. But I do want to, and this may derail it slightly, but I agree with the hypocrisy of what we're seeing with everything, and it's not new. Like we're seeing it now in our faces so much, but having grown up in a very religious Christian background, it's the stuff that I've seen building for so long, where the religious aspect of people of choosing to ignore one sin
Turn a blind eye.
and go after people for a different type of sin, and so to
Yes.
speak. And it's the same thing as like now, okay, well, we'll ignore it when my guy does it, politician does it, but we'll go after these people when they do the exact same thing.
It's the concept, Josh, of the rules only. This is for everything in recent
Mhm.
right now. The rules only apply when they benefit me, my views, my family, my whatever, everything. If it's something outside of that, or something especially that we disagree with, which is I think the main hand wringing thing lately, then the rules, are different.
Yeah.
It's a changing game. There is no set of rules anymore for anything. Rules, laws, whatever you want to deem them, that are followed to a T.
Yeah. Greg?
Yeah. So you brought this up a few minutes ago, Preston, saying it's going to get to a certain point or a certain action, and I kind of Sunny said the same thing when I was talking to her this morning because like she's back in the States right now. So
Yeah.
I just kind of processing everything, here overnight by myself, and was able to chat with her a little bit earlier today, and she said that, and it's the same thing she said when Trump was getting elected on election night. She's like, it's only going to be another 4 years. It's not going to be a problem. Well, we're seeing how that's turned out in the first 365 days. But then what she said is like, it's going to get to a point, something certain. There's going to be something that happens where that big majority shift is going to change. I told her I'm concerned that that's not the case. There's enough people out
Mhm.
there where unless a bomb is dropped from a U.S. military plane onto a southern military U.S. city, that it doesn't matter. I mean, and that the country itself has shown that. So, I mean, just look at gun rights in general. I mean, if there was never going to be gun control, it would have been after Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Like the human beings in this country, they just at a major scale don't give a fuck about other human beings. And so I guess my question to you guys is,
Mhm.
are you that doomsday as I am of thinking that there won't get to a point, or,
I
what's your thoughts on it getting there?
So I have the one note that I learned from the last Trump presidency is that we are now in an environment where even when big things happen, and yesterday, define big to you, right? Yesterday was big. There's several other things. Renee Nicole Good was big. Um, every one of these things are big, but they don't change anything in the 4-year leadership of whoever is president. What it does change is, in my eyes, seeing Trump elected and then Biden elected, is that we have gotten into the mentality of not standing up in the moment when these things happen, and instead saying, you know what, when I get back to the ballot box, I'm going to go a different direction. And things slide the other way. And I feel like we are going to be constantly in that for 20 or more years.
Yeah.
Just going red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, and one more blue again. Everybody's going to be pissed off about gas prices or taxes or whatever the fuck they want to be pissed off about, and it's going to flip back red again. And then we'll have whatever that is. That is, I just feel that there's no point where everybody's going to collectively look at some big thing that happens and all suddenly agree. That's what so to your fear, Greg, I fear that there's no time that's going to happen where we're all just going to suddenly be like, you know what, that is fucked up. We have different political views. Let's band together and let's go against this. That is not going to happen.
Yeah, and I'll take this in two parts, and I agree 100% with what Preston said, and I'll try not to repeat everything he said as
Repeat it.
but I'm not as much. I mean, I do see doom and gloom and everything, and it's depressing. I feel like from a practical, based off historical presidencies and things in the past, that from a political standpoint, we're if the midterms go the way a lot of people are predicting they're going to be, then that will at least tamper with this administration's ability to do certain things. Um, Is
At
that
the
gonna
state level.
at the state? Yes, yeah, at that level,
Yeah.
which will help a little bit. Now, that's not gonna help us be able to communicate and talk with our friends and family who are simply gonna look at that and say, "Well, now look what the other side's doing. They're stopping my Lord and Savior Donald Trump from doing what God ordained him to do." Um, I have seen statistics and some reporting showing that the majority of the public, now not the majority of like the Republican Party, I think that's like 27%, at least in polling. But when you put it all together, everyone together, the majority of Americans, I think it's like 57, almost 60%, are against what ICE is doing and does not want it to continue in the way it's going. Um, in a polling I saw, it was 15% of people who self-proclaimed MAGA did not. 15% is a small number, but when you think of 15% of MAGA voters, that's actually pretty incredible. So I think, unfortunately, but fortunately, this administration is losing a lot of its own people with just having this stuff thrown in its face. But what we see, and because of the algorithms and the vacuum of our social media, is that we see the loud voices of the same people who do not care for human life.
I have a comment on that, Josh.
Yeah.
So you made a really good point there that there's statistics that show and polling data that shows that some of the MAGA is splitting because of the immigration operations. And the first thing that comes to mind is that there is a piece of the MAGA votership that owns farms, that owns construction companies, that owns things
Yep.
that historically had a larger numbers of employed people that did not have citizenship.
Yep.
And when you go, like, FSU is a good example. There is a construction company here that got raided as they're building out like the new student union and everything else down on Gain Street.
Hmm.
And that was a big thing, but didn't hear much of a peep from the construction owner who is clearly red.
Yep.
Um, I mean, that's where my head goes when I hear that, Josh, is it's like, okay, why are they splitting off? Why are they suddenly, because this is not benefiting me anymore.
And that
Yeah,
kind of goes to what I've always thought of why, and my anger towards just ICE in general right now. I'm not a ICE needs to be abolished completely, but it does need to go away and then be brought back for something. And my reasoning for that is that this administration has no intention of really deporting and fixing the problem that they say is there when it comes to illegal immigrants. It's all for show. In the very beginning, in the first month when it first started, they got heat from farmers because they were raiding farms and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they came out and said, "Hey, listen, we won't go after the people that work at farms. We'll let those illegals stay." You look at just going up, I had pulled up the 50 states immigrant numbers on the government's website. Minnesota is ranked like 17th, 18th. You got Texas, Florida, and California as the top three. Do you see them going door to door in Texas and Florida?
So yes and no, Josh, to that. I will say that, there were, now that ICE is being tracked very
Yeah.
heavily by many, many different groups, and good for them.
Hmm.
With what's going on, I'd love to know when they are local in here. And we recently were notified that Tallahassee they were here.
Yep.
So I would say yes and no to that. I think it's happening. I think what is happening is what we all know happens is that these raids on, we passed a farm heading back from Tampa on the last time that we were there, and just massive law enforcement presence. Like clearly an operation was taking place as we were passing by.
Yeah.
So I think it's happening. It's just happening in the shadows. So
Right.
which comes to the same point that we're making, that so this is still, it's like, oh, we're not going after farms. Yes, they are. They're just not. They're trying to just settle the
Appease.
communications down to where it's not something that they're not going to televise and put this out on the media that this great operation happened at this farm. They're not going to do that to protect themselves. But ultimately, it's happening. And then again, back to who's going to the poll booths. They're going to be pissed. Now,
Yeah.
will they vote blue? Probably not. They'll probably, throw their vote into the Libertarian Party pile that gets burned up anyway.
Mhm.
That's what I see happening. And again, going back to the same point, it's like, all right, well, nothing's going to happen now, but in 2028, it's going to flip for these reasons.
Yeah. And I hate that. I mean, I'm torn in the selfish side that wants to kind of feel like those people that I see online, be like, oh, if I feel like them and try to think to their mindset, then I'm super gung ho that the next administration is going to start arresting and attacking their people and making their lives miserable. But I don't really want that. And I hate that I
Yeah.
feel sometimes that I want that I want them to feel
That
pity.
reciprocity, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. That I mean,
Um,
like, I know I mentioned privately, I was up till, like, 2 in the morning last night, and it wasn't because I was scrolling through necessarily, like, watching the video over and over. I watched it one time, and that was enough, for
Yeah.
me
It's plenty.
to know my thoughts on it. But I hate I hate feeling almost hate myself, like me starting to start scrolling through social media and seeing friends and people and coming away from going, I hate that person now.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to feel that way, and I truly don't. But I come away instantly with just anger and hate towards it, and I hate that that's where we've become a society because of what
yeah,
this administration does.
I think that's where the human aspect of it is. The stuff that's happening, which on both sides. I mean, nobody's saying like we're the first three to, if the Democrats or the left, like people are shit on both
Yeah,
sides, and especially all
correct.
the politicians and things like that. But I think we're in such a time with access to video, everything like that, that like we're still cavemen. So like we've come a long way, or at least most of us have been able to process emotions and things like that. But when unprecedented things are happening in our lifetimes, which I'd say for us, I mean, looking back at history,
Yeah,
it's been pretty fucking unprecedented for about every 5 years.
Yep.
There's something new that comes along, and that could be naivety and in age. You talk to our parents, and they were all grandparents are coming out of World War II, the Depression. And then our parents had Vietnam, Desert Storm, Civil Rights Movement. So like, I could be talking out of my ass there, but again, we can only speak to our own personal experience. Um,
Yep.
so it is hard to have those visceral feelings and then try to figure out why they're happening so you can get to the bottom of it. And because yeah, nobody wants to hate anybody. And
right.
like I think the worst part is face to face conversations, or like real conversations could happen for about 30 to 45 seconds. And then the second somebody felt, and like myself included, because like Sonny and I try to have conversations and we have very similar beliefs, but like
Mhm.
I get heated with her, and and that's my wife. And like, does she say invalid things that like kind of butt heads, or like I should maybe look into a little bit? But like, I feel myself even just having conversations with my wife, you
Yeah,
know,
Yep.
boiling a little bit. So that's kind of, you know, difficult. I get to kind of not shift it, but kind of keep it on a large scale, as opposed to speaking specifically to the event that happened yesterday. Um, what I Another thing that I struggle with is that people look at each thing individually, like that's the reason everybody's mad.
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
me,
And that is we look at a lot of people are looking at things in a vacuum and saying, "Hey, you're angry at my president for this thing right here." And that's not always true. I will say myself, there are things that I didn't vote for the administration to come through. I was disappointed, but at the end of the day, I want this administration to be successful because with it being successful, it's going to hopefully make me successful.
Correct.
There are things that have been done that are some things are subtle, some things are large that I believe has eroded what my belief and what I was raised on, the principles of being an American that are being destroyed. Things as small as building in a $50 billion ballroom, in the White House. I remember my dad, who is conservative, religious, everything else. He visited the White House after Trump was elected, but before the ballroom started. And I was talking to him after his trip over there, and he was sharing with me all the things. And last time I went to Washington D.C., I was like 12 years old, so it was that it inspired him and made him feel proud to be an American, but also just um, respect the office because he was like, it's amazing how homely the Capitol is. Like it's not grand, it's not a palace. It's really small, Josh. Our house in North Carolina was about the same size as the White House. And he was making all these things about how when you become president, you're giving and sacrificing to the people and, all these principles um, that I was like, yeah, that's great, Dad. And then months later, they're like, oh, yeah, now we're going to build a ballroom. We're going to gold plate everything and we're going to do everything we can to make ourselves look like one of these European, kings type of look. And small things like that lead to big things down the road. And yeah, it's just not one thing that has made us upset, or at least me upset. It's destroying a foundation that I thought was there and people supporting that foundation being destroyed.
we're all thinking the same thing, just in different words. I do remember what I was gonna talk or ask or talk
Yeah.
about was it's the singular focus of people who are willing to accept all of the other bad things just for the sake of this one bad thing happening. Like again, should criminals that are here illegally be processed and deported? Absolutely, no question. I'm here
Yep.
for it. But when the government itself has come out and said that, like, what is it, like less than 12 or 15% of the people who are actually
Or criminals.
detained and deported or
Yeah.
actual criminals, if they were illegals, I won't even. That's like if they're not here legally, send them back. Should they go back to their country? Absolutely not to some gulag or
Yeah.
camp in another country that they've never been a part of. But it's the shit that's happening to American citizens.
Yeah.
That's a byproduct. But it's okay that Johnny down the street, because he's brown, has to carry his passport around. Like I can't. I don't know how people are okay with that, and or like say, you know what, let's just going back to it. It's like, well, if they just would do what they're saying to do, they wouldn't have to be on that issue. This is fucking America, the America that you all say that I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want it, and fuck you. But
Yep.
now, because we want to do, yeah, let's get these people out of here. It doesn't matter how it's done. And the talking points that come up, like, well, Obama deported more people than Trump did, but you guys kept quiet. Well, yeah, that's because we
Yeah,
weren't
because he did it
fucking
quietly.
they were targeted. And as much as DHS wants to say everything is very targeted, it's fucking not. You're
Yeah.
going around, you've even come out and said, we're just gonna knock on doors, knock on doors, knock on doors. And so, like, I just I can't see how you can see what's happening to other people in this country and be okay with everything that's happened just to get illegal criminals out of the country.
Yeah. It's, the knocking on, going door to door reminds me of, the Gestapo at that
Yeah.
point. Um, and for some reason, that is not something that comes to mind from the other angle, which blows my mind. It's, I struggle with all of this. I really do.
No, I we're right there with you. So,
So Lauren
um,
can talk about this as well, to put Lauren's perspective, not that, Lauren's not here, of course, but she sees it from, I think, a bigger angle that I have acquired as well, which is, when you've got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old that's growing
mhm,
up in the world, you a lot of the reaction that you have to what's going on is fear that should this continue, my own children,
yeah,
that may have whatever views, I don't know what their views on gun control are going to be. Like, that they'll figure it out just like we all
They're
did.
4 and 7. You shouldn't have to.
yeah,
Correct. That's the other piece, and I think that's what Lauren struggles with, and I'm there for her. I think that I have numbed myself as much as I possibly can to avoid that because it's terrifying. Um, but that's the piece I think that a lot of folks do is they look at their kids and they're like, what if they're at a protest, when they're in college and something like this happens? I feel like the protesting aspect of all of this, which everyone has the right to do and should continue. Now the violence piece to it is just unsettling. That,
yeah.
it doesn't make me want to go to a protest. And that is the whole point of protest, is standing up to what you think is right. That's where I struggle a lot.
Correct, and that's the goal of this administration. I mean, that's the quiet part out loud. They want everyone to be fearful so that they don't fight back.
Yep.
And that's the whole point of doing it. And I'll give a personal story on the kids part. I mean, Landon is 13. Um, Last year when all this first started, we had to have a conversation because he on his own brought it up one time when he was I think we were going to get ready to like kind of take him down to Florida to see with to stay with his grandparents for a week. And he was like very hesitant and not being as like, hey, I want to do this like he usually is. And we thought that was odd. And we asked, like what's going on? And he was like, I'm scared to be around grandma and grandpa because they want all the brown, basically, I Fox News is on 24/7 and I hear
Yep.
grandpa make comments about, you know, alligator Alcatraz was going on. That was the big news thing and making jokes about Mexicans being gator food. And yet every Friday they go to La Rumba's, get served by the same waitress.
The
And
irony there.
my 13-year-old saw that irony
Yeah.
and it was scaring him. Now we talked and we were like, we tried to, as best we can, politely we can, without splitting, family members apart. Be like, sometimes blah 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 blah. But deep down, me and Devin had to have a conversation of like, maybe we have to now cut back sometimes on our kids being around these family members, unless we know that the things they're going to say and do around them isn't creating these things.
Yep.
And that's something I never thought I'd have to do.
Yes. My mom, God rest her soul, was an avid Fox News watcher. And to the point where when I would bring Aurora over, I would turn the TV off or change it.
Yeah.
Because no child, at 3 or 4 at that time, needed to see all the garbage that comes out of that channel. So yes, and that is common of that. We'll put that generation as well. that they, as they're taking in this information from that lovely channel, they like to reiterate it, almost repeat it, like
Mhm.
parroting what they're hearing. And it would become almost, mom would come over to the house and it would be did you see what they're doing with blah, blah, blah? And it's like, no, because I don't watch the news, any type of news channel anymore. I
Yeah.
get my news how I want to get my news. And some would argue that, well, you only get one side of the news. And it's just fuck off. Like,
Yeah, if you
you're
choose
doing the
that,
same
you
thing,
you you're
right?
you're choosing to get
You
that one side of the news.
correct.
Correct.
CNN and the liberal media can be just as bad at being
Yes,
one-sided.
100%.
I agree.
And CNN's
That's
not
why
even fucking liberal anymore, let's
that's
be real.
that's
No,
true. That's why it is important to be able to see and take in multiple aspects and then come to your own conclusion, which people just don't do. They
no,
stay in one lane because that's the lane they've always known, and it's comfortable
Well,
to them because of
the
some deep-rooted issue.
bigger picture on that, touching on what you said, Preston, about how, like, your mom, she would come and they're just parodying it, it's
yeah,
because of technology and algorithms, it's like Fox isn't dumb. They are they're systematically repeating the same things so that
correct.
that's all in their
Yeah.
brain, and then that's what they're fed on Facebook. And same thing with me. Like I would I was scrolling through my Instagram last night when I was laying in bed, and every reel that I went
Video
on
after video.
was all, or like all, just all the commentary on it was 98%, left leaning, and like people who had the same, ideology on, or not even ideology, the same opinion of what happened yesterday, with, a couple sprinkling through. And I mean, smartest fucking guy in the room, but I know what critical thinking is. And
Right.
although that's the only thing I'm seeing, like, I'm also open to like trying to just get an overall understanding. But when there's video evidence of something happening, like, it's black and white, something happened and something happened. Um,
Yep.
I want to kind of shift it back to just kind of like the specifics of the news and stuff like that, and like the whole immigration thing. And it's like Bondi in her fucking letter to Walt yesterday, talking about saying the quiet part out loud. It's never been about fucking immigration. They said if you
How
give
about the
us your voter
voters
rolls,
information?
we'll
Yeah.
stop operation. That's bullshit. Even if they would give it to them, they wouldn't stop what they're doing. But I mean, how many times do these people have to say out loud in black and white why they're doing something, how they're going to do it, and what's the reasoning behind it? And it's all bullshit, or it's all to the benefit of some billionaire, and doesn't just it just that doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah, it's Greg, you made a good point there, which is the benefit to a billionaire or the billionaires of the world, right? The top half of the 1%. And as president, you are and your administration is representative of everyone. All right. Take the illegals out of there because they're gonna say, well, it ain't everyone, it's only the US. Okay, fine. US citizens then, right? But what portion of all US citizens is benefiting from it? You look at the economy and what is being done there, and there's a lot of positive things happening in the economy. Well, ultimately,
In the
but
stock
who is
market.
correct? Who is that benefiting?
Correct.
So when we talk stock market, I don't know the statistic, but what what percentage of the US population, US citizens again, is has stock? Compare that to what percentage of the US population is living paycheck to paycheck, which I know that statistic, which it's above 65% at this point, where one bad thing could happen to them and they're gone. They are in debt, they are through homeless, everything. So again, going back to, if you're a representative of the entire US citizen population and you're only executing on actions that benefit the smallest slice of that population, that's not a successful presidency. In any blue, red, whatever color you want to paint it, that's not successful.
I mean, unless your whole goal of being president is to charge people $1 million just to have dinner with you so you can pass whatever legislation they want, then it's very successful.
Well, and we've monetized things you just that's a rabbit hole I don't know that we want to go down.
Before we go down this rabbit hole, everybody,
Yeah,
I hope you're finding
please.
this video helpful. And if you enjoyed the conversation so far, please hit that subscribe button. It helps the algorithm show this is to more people. And we'd love to have you back for our next episode.
Just to
right.
drop in with some stats real quick. Just pulled it
Well
up
done,
again.
Josh.
This is ChatGPT. So can't speak to the true validity. But as of early 2026, approximately 62% of American adults have money invested in the stock market.
Okay,
With that,
that's higher than I thought.
62 is the total. 21% is direct ownership with individual stocks.
I was going to say
So the
using apps like
other
Robinhood,
30 or the
I'm in the
other
stock market for
39 is
$10.
401ks and
Right.
IRAs.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
the last thing I just want to touch on here is this conversation that I had with my parents. But my parents are on the other side of it. You know, they're more 100% more left leaning. And my father, who was never political in his life, the very first election that he voted on, he was
Yeah.
born in 1955. The very first election that he ever voted on or in was 2016. And then when I've talked to him about money, and like we were always class, you know, we never had tons of money, but we never went wanting. But what he says is the only positive I could say is that yes, when Trump was in office in the first term, my 401k and my investments did great. And you know,
Yep.
right now, over the last 5 years, I started that journey, and I'm up too. But that doesn't mean just because I'm benefiting financially that I'm okay with all the other shit that's happening. Like if my investment accounts didn't go up, and I own multiple homes, I own a business. Like I should be as right wing as you can fucking be. I'm an investor,
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I do utilize, you know, tax breaks and things like that. But I just that doesn't make everything that's happening on a social level and a personal level like sit okay with me. And I'm not trying to be on some high horse here, but I just
That's
for me it just comes down to the personal aspect of it. Like I don't give a shit how small your world is. Like if you see what's happening and you're okay with it because your fucking stocks are up 25%, like go fuck yourself. Like that's just where I'm at with it.
I think you made a great point there, Greg. And it relates back to the same thing that we were talking about earlier, which is it puts another lens on it actually. So it's like this benefits me, like rules in a certain way. It's like if it benefits me, I'm all for it. If it doesn't benefit me, I'm not all for it. Um, this other lens is, well, we can do whatever we want at the federal level and make these crazy decisions, and these things happen in front of you, but you're doing fine. So why don't you just sit back and relax, and we'll take care of what we're trying to do? I totally believe that that is a piece of it, where it's like the economy is stable, everything else is fine, you know, whatever, but don't push back on us on the stuff that we are trying to do because you're fine. That's a big message that I think they would never. That's not coming out of that will not come out of the shadows and be said ever.
Yeah, but it's
That is
landing. People are
yes.
eating that shit up, you know, right? My gas is actually higher than it was. Your price of fucking eggs that you were so worried about 18 months ago is higher. So you just miss me with that bullshit. And I'm I'm starting to lose it a little bit. So I
No, I mean,
apologize.
I like the passion's good, and it kind of just shows how real, this is. And yeah, I mean, I filled up gas the other day, and it was a little bit cheaper than it normally was. I'll go ahead and admit my gas was $2.39 when it was 2.80 when Trump came in. I could just leave it at that. That would be the Facebook post. Gas was 2.39. Now I could also admit that, well, it was 2.39 because I had 50 cents off per gallon because of my reward points for this, with an additional 10%, off of this, and that's why the gas was so low. So, yeah. Anyway.
Arsenal. Sorry, I'm watching the because the Manchester United game kicked off. At
Oh, really?
11:30.
We're not that important? You couldn't just focus on us
I
100%?
mean, do you see what I'm wearing here? Like, this is a little important to me. Arsenal just scored. They're up 1-0 now.
Oh,
So
okay.
That's right. I just want to throw one more stat out there.
Yeah.
Just talking overall like wealth gap. So a little bit further digging into those stocks. So the top 10% own approximately 87% of the total value, and the top 1% hold 50% of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the bottom 50% own one. So like I mean that just kind of goes. Just wanted to give a little more context with numbers on what we were
No,
talking about a
that's
little bit
good.
earlier.
The rabbit hole that I said we would avoid, and I think we should avoid it because I don't really want to talk about pay to play forever, because you could go on and on. That there is a mechanism in this entire administration and in the U.S. now where it's there to an extent. It's always been pay to play. You see political donations and the companies that get to visit the president and have conversations and direct policy that benefits them. That has been the result of tens of millions of dollars of political donations that got them elected in the first place, right? But
Yep.
now there is all these other arms of pay to play, such as talking about immigration, the Trump gold card, the visa cost at H-1Bs, which many companies use. I'm surprised they're not bitching about it as much as I would have expected them to. But Amazon, Microsoft, all of these had thousands and thousands and thousands of H-1B visa employees, and now the cost of them is $100,000 per application.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that the companies are going to do the same thing. Now, how they're going to pay to play is they're going to secretly talk with the Trump administration and develop some way where it's like, we can't lose all of these H-1Bs. How much is it going to cost me to keep our H-1Bs, right?
Yeah.
And that is being done behind the scenes constantly.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
And the Trump gold card, one thing I will say with that is that that's done in a lot of other countries. Like they're
Yep.
here in Portugal.
Sure.
They've shifted it now over the last they changed the requirements a year and a half ago, but they had in Portugal for the last decade called the golden visa, where if you came over and you invested $500,000 cash into property, not or an investment, or now they've shifted it to where if you do 500,000 cash into like a research project or something like that, you get automatic residency and then a path to citizenship. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that gold card or whatever he called it, like that is something that is done throughout the world to help foreign investment and foreign investors
Got it.
come into a country.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw this as a question to both of you guys. Speaking on that level, and I'll say the question, but then I'll immediately follow it up with me answering it myself, and then giving you guys time to think on it. Are we glad, or how? Like you said, we the United States we've always done this pay to play has always been there, but it was always behind the scenes, not spoken. It wasn't so blatant that we could see it. Is it better, or do we feel better that it is now out in the open, or would we rather it have just continued to be that thing that was just always in the background? I'll speak. Oh, go ahead. If you're already ready, Preston,
You go
you geared
ahead,
it up.
Josh.
I was going to say that honestly, for me, at this point, I wish it was still in the background and it was hidden, like ignored. And that's almost wrong. It's almost hypocritical to an extent, but it does kind of, for me anyway, not wanting to give up what I was raised on, what America was, its principles, and believing that we were this righteous, country, or even just the Statue of Liberty, bring me your poor, bring me your sick, bring me your destitute, and that we were just supposed to be a society that welcomed the immigrant. I kind of wish I still had that ignorance, uh, to an extent, and I didn't. I didn't see what was actually behind the curtain, and it wasn't exposed for the sake of being exposed. Kind of like, and I'm using this as an example, when you find out years and years later, or you hear the rumors of your favorite artist being a piece of shit, and you're like, I really enjoyed that person's music, but damn it, I kind of wish I just never knew that he did that.
Yes. So, I think preserving here's what I'll say. Things that you like, what the environment that we're in right now is, if you like something a lot, to take into account the artist that you like, and then you find out where it's like, all right, if they have differing views from you, where they support what's currently going on in the world, right? Um, that immediately shifts you away, where it's like, you know what? Well, fuck everything that artist ever produced or whatever,
Right.
and you stop. So there's several examples. Even with Lauren and I, it, all the way down to Jimmy John's. I'm gonna bring up Jimmy John's for 2 seconds. The owner of Jimmy John's, he's an absolute piece of shit.
That Italian nightclub is
But
tasty at 3 in the
I
morning.
know.
Hashtag Jimmy
So,
John.
so it's like, if I didn't know, I would probably eat more Jimmy John's than I do, because I lived on Jimmy John's for like freshman year of FSU. Like, it
Well, I
was
guess we're not going to get that sponsor now. So
yeah, we're not
thanks.
getting that one. But I'd look out the window and there's a Jimmy
Yeah.
John's there. I probably ate it, 3, 4, 5 times a week,
Well,
which is not good for you. Anyway, long story short, like, you find out something you didn't know about somebody very quickly in this
yeah.
environment, versus the other side, where it's, you may go a lifetime and never find out about it. So I do appreciate that it's out in the open. But I do agree that now that it's out in the open, it shapes what you do or don't like first, before you actually decide on your own whether you like something, which is shitty. Like, living through life where it's like, it's whatever's behind something that I like, I now have to question, or I can see what it is. It it's like free will has kind of gone away, right?
Well, it's to
Because
give that
now
opportunity.
it's
Yeah, as
now
I
you
said,
see it.
it gives that it should give the opportunity of, now that it's out there and it's open, do we allow it to continue, and do we change it?
Well, I
Or
think that's the deeper question, and that I think that's probably the more real question than kind of
Yeah.
the surface level of, um, are we glad it's there? Are we glad it's not? I think the issue is there'll never be, in our lifetime. I don't think there'll ever be any meaningful change, because politicians are politicians. The only thing those guys give a fuck about is continuing to stay in office
Yep.
and continuing to make money off of donors and lobbyists.
Mhm.
I mean, I I I'm semi confident that, midterms this year there'll be some change, but I'm also not confident in any of the Democratic leadership to, like, they have this thing up on a softball pitch, like, and then there's zero messaging outside of like two or three people, which, because they're already labeled as democratic socialists, that
Correct.
even the more centric Democrats, you know, push back against them. They're the only ones who are calling what's been happening over the last, not even last year. I mean, even half of Biden's administration,
Yeah.
calling out the
Yep.
hypocrisy, the bullshit. But what you see from Democratic leadership is just, let's keep the status quo because you're getting hurt, but my pocketbooks are
Yeah.
good. Like, that, I mean, obviously that's a whole nother podcast that we could do alone, talking about
Yeah.
congressional term limits and
I think that, yeah, and I think you're right on that. I mean, I hope that in our lifetime we will see a substantial change. Now, that could be 20 years from now, because I think that it's the old guard, the old Democratic guard, that's still there. Same thing with the Republican. I mean, there could be a shift there even in 20 something years, when the old powers kind of move away. Because I've seen young, not even just young, I've seen older, socialist type of, people coming up in the Democratic Party in certain states at the local level. that eventually, hopefully, will get Senate and House, positions and things like that. That could very well make a change. I know there's a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but I think he's up in Maine, and he's a retired Navy SEAL, and he's super pro. I mean, against the what's going on in Gaza, and he's not taking APAC money, and he's very much,
The
on my
yeah, the
same way.
Oysterman.
Yes, whatever his name is, but he's going to be
Yeah,
the Oyster
I
Man.
know he's an Oysterman now. That's all I
Yep,
know.
yep. So I mean, there are people that are coming up, but it's going to be a while before they actually can have that voice if they're able to stick around long enough and not be brought down by the system, which will do everything it can to try to take them out.
Is this Graham Plattner we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was trying to get acclimated
I
here.
I mean, yeah, if we're talking Democratic guys that I want to make it in the big time, but I think he's just stuck in a shit sandwich is James Tellerico. The guy running for senator, or I think it's senator,
Texas. Yep.
down in Texas. He just talks facts, and like I'm not a faith backed guy or faith based guy, and he is,
Yeah.
but like. And again, it all could be bullshit and smoke and mirrors. Like we're fed everything that we want to be fed and that they want us to see and stuff like that. But like it's nice to hear adults speak, because we don't get that anymore in any
Yep.
level, whether it's the news, whether it's politics, whether it's a lot of people. Like there's no more critical thinking and adult conversations. It's you're scrolling through shit on social media, and
Yeah.
then if somebody tries to, bring up a point, it's like, well, nope, nope. And until we can get back to some common sense in all parts of life and adults acting like
Yeah.
adults again, I struggle to see any sort of compromise and coming back together in the near term.
So I don't. I think some of you may have watched Newsroom, but this reminds me. There was what was very good about Newsroom is pointing out some of these disparity statistics of the U.S. legislature, which I loved, and it was all fact, of course. Um, but the what has always surprised me, and it's not surprised me because I know there's billions and billions of dollars keeping them getting reelected. But Greg, to your point, term limits absolutely have to happen. The what I fear is the age of the U.S. legislature has never been representative of the U.S. population in our time, in probably dating back at least to World War II. Because there was some younger U.S. legislature, the representatives then than there are now, right?
Yeah.
Um, so statistics like the average member of Congress is roughly 20 years older than the average American. Um, what is it? U.S. Constitution sets minimum ages of 25 and 30 for the House and Senate. The youngest, the median age in the U.S. is roughly 39. The median age for House members is 57 to 58, and for senators, it's over 64. It's like, guys, this is not that alone from a generational perspective means that while they're being elected on a Republican or Democratic ticket, their views on either side of that are still not going to be representative of the average American. That's where we're failing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Is
talking
there
about. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
no, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to kind of change it up a little because the random thought came in my mind. But since we're talking about like senators and everything like that, seeing as she's from my district, thoughts on Marjorie Taylor Greene's fallout with her president and just
I mean, where did she fall out to? That's what I think has not been revealed. It's like, all right, well, you fell out with the current person that you had a public shit show with, but does that mean that suddenly you're a decent person? No.
oh no, I mean,
It's uh, I don't think it changes anything other
yeah,
than the fact that she's made it very public that she's not in the same camp anymore, and all that does for me, from a political perspective, is say that she's just going to go against and run herself, and bolster herself to another political level. That's the only thing
Right.
I think comes out of
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I mean, it was done selfishly and it was calculated, but
Yep.
it just makes me laugh because it's like, when did she become the smartest fucking Republican in the room? Like, if that's our goalpost, like, or our barrier, or our baseline, man, like, we're not quite where we need to be as a human race. Disrespect intended.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
What did
Yeah.
Crockett call her? Plain face butch or something? No. But
Yeah. I
anyway,
mean, yeah, somebody that believes in Jewish space lasers being the adult in the room.
Yes.
Going back
Yes.
to that. Yeah,
hmm.
something
Well, I
else.
mean, if you're on Facebook enough, you realize people believe in a lot of crazy things to begin with. I mean,
I
the
will.
amount of times that, not just on Facebook, and this kind of goes back around again, but I know beating a dead horse here, but I mean, I even had after when Renee Good was killed, I had my manager who nobody in my office really knows my political leanings. I try to keep that stuff close to my chest just to be respectful and everything like that. But I mean, she was coming up talking. She was like, everyone gets paid like $1,500 to, do all this stuff. And
I
I'm
just
just like,
that and that's still being perpetrated, has been for years. It's like, if people were actually getting paid, one of these right wing people would have signed up on whatever online website there is
and
to sign
shown
up
that
to
pay
get
stub.
paid, and then like, nobody's even photoshopped one.
Right.
Like, come on, like, fucking George Soros, where's my
The
check,
boogeyman. But
right?
the channel sponsored by George Soros. Give us those
Yeah.
checks. But I mean,
They
like you said, Photoshop. When when I was watching the video yesterday, I had to take a brief second to be like, all right, let me look for the things in this video that I telltale signs of it being AI. I mean, we're at a point in time
Yeah,
where that's the danger in even these things of being like, what and I know even with the Venezuela, when that thing was going on, there were so many AI videos of people creating, of people crying in the streets and celebrating. They were just completely fake AI stuff
Yep.
videos. So, yeah.
yeah,
Welcome
I
back,
think,
Preston.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
I mean,
guys.
You're
you're
good.
good.
Aurora is working on her homework and had been waiting on me to check her vocabulary, and she's doing great on
You got an A+.
vocabulary. An
Good.
A+ so far.
Don't check up on mine because it's awful. So,
I'm sure. It's basically the vocabulary word and the meaning and drawing a
okay.
line. I was like, hey, killing it, kid. Keep it going.
Comprehension.
There you go.
Yes. We need more.
Hopefully
We
the
need
new
more of
younger,
that in the
yeah, we need,
world.
yeah.
Yes. We're thinking the same exact thing. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good question for a podcast. Is have we looked into any of the data of some of the folks that are doing really terrible shit are super smart, right? But some IQ, how did they do in school? What were they like in school? That would be interesting to dive into. Whether we could find factual data is a whole nother
Right.
issue, but um, I would love it. It's like being a fly on a wall, in second, third grade for some of the people that are,
Yeah, who
behind all
touched
of this.
Stephen Miller back then?
Yeah, who
Jesus.
hurt you, bro? Type question. Like for a lot of
Fill us up
people.
with ball. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, doesn't matter how much college education or how good your GPA is if you don't have common sense. I mean,
right.
I love my brother. He's definitely the smartest academically in my whole family, and his paycheck represents that. Yet he's the dumbest SOB. Like the amount of times he's called to be like, I left my car and I don't know where it is. Oh, I had handed the keys to a random stranger. Like he just does common, just like, what are you thinking?
So if you're
You're now
listening and
living
you're
out of a
Josh's brother,
Oh, he knows.
like and subscribe here.
You're living out of a U-Haul because you forgot to pay your rent because you couldn't figure out how the system worked for 3 months. I mean, yeah. So I love you, Josiah. But
Josh, you can maybe name this podcast like airing out my family issues. There's some directions we can go with this.
oh, that could always be a thing. So, well, do we want to touch on? Actually, let me do this. This will be another kind of like the little what are you drinking segment in the beginning. I'm going to randomly sprinkle in.
Beer.
I didn't have any prepared. I should have had it prepared, but I'm going to be sprinkling in random episodes get to know a host. So, a simple question to both you guys: favorite movie from the 2000s?
Super bad. I went and watched that movie.
Oh, I didn't want you to explain it, but I'm kidding. No, go ahead.
I watched that movie theater. I watched that in the movie theater 3 times in the first 2 days it was released. Just from the opening credits of them dancing behind those like colored silhouettes. Just yeah, for me, super bad for sure.
Do you have a McLovin ID card?
No, I don't like to buy things that I like. You ask my wife, I don't like to buy anything for myself ever.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna make a joke, and if Lauren listens to this, she's gonna laugh hysterically. The Proposal
with
Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock.
and Sandra Bullock. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And only because I never watched that film in the theater and never really gave 2 shits about it. But in the era of still channel scrolling, because we still have a cable account, probably one of the few of our friends left that actually subscribes and pays that kind of money for it. It's just one of those movies that when it's on, if I
You're
stop
watching
on
it?
it, I'm fucking watching the whole thing. I don't know particularly why. I like the story. Sandra Bullock, I don't know.
I mean, definitely Ryan Reynolds was crushing it in the 2000s.
Yeah, he
I mean,
was.
you had
Yeah,
Just
really was.
Friends, definitely Maybe, The Proposal, first Deadpool, like
Van Wilder, all the just I think it is that actually. Now that I'm thinking through it, it's more that era of Ryan Reynolds, compared to now, where it's like, all right, he really is just in business now, with what he's doing, rather than making movies. He's learned that making movies pales in comparison to the money that you can generate, buying a football club in England. So
that's a great show too.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I follow them pretty closely where I get it. So we have cable over here, much cheaper than it is in the US, but they were down 2-1, ended up scoring 2 in stoppage time to get all 3 points, and they're actually in the last playoff spot in the championship right now. Lots of games left to be played, but it'd be pretty crazy if they got into the playoff in their first year in the championship.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
Nice.
What about you, Josh?
I was gonna say, you guys got to come up with questions for me.
You
That'll be the rules.
your own question. You were good at it earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a nerd, so it would have been the Lord of the Rings.
I was gonna say, were you allowed to watch movies in the 2000s?
Well, to be completely honest, I watched the third Lord of the Rings before I had watched the first and the second. So
you pirated it
because
in your bedroom?
Yes, I was. Actually, my dad did take me to see it in theater when we were in London. Right. So we went to Piccadilly Square, and the third Return of the King was in theaters, and I hadn't been allowed to watch all that because magic and all that type of things my parents were against. But I guess my dad was feeling the need to make me happy or to bond
connect with his son
on the strip. So he took me to see the movie, and he loved it. And then he didn't realize it was the third movie. So when he's like, I feel so lost though on the story. Like, how did they get here?
A little
I was like,
bit
Dad,
happened.
there's 2 other. I'm like, there's 2 other movies. So we ended up watching the other movies after that.
Fucking family stuff is so fun.
Oh yeah, I'm here for it. So yeah, no, that would have been mine, and I'm not going to pull it off the wall, but I do have a replica Lord of the Rings sword mounted on my wall, so I do buy memorabilia for
Awesome.
my.
You would.
Josh, my family was the complete opposite when it came to movies. My
Yeah.
mom took myself and my two brothers. They're a bit older than I am, 10 and 6 years respectively, but I want to say it was probably 1992, so I was a whopping like
Okay.
5 years old, 6 years old. And my mother took us to go see White Men Can't Jump with Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson. Rosie Perez is half naked, curse words.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying that's why I turned out the way I did, but
I I can agree with that, Greg. Like I watched Terminator 2 with my brother's not too much older. He's 2 years, 2 days older than me. But I watched Terminator 2 when I was 4. I
Yeah.
think I was 4. That's not a great movie to start. I mean, I love that movie now.
Classic.
But seeing a nuclear bomb go off and seeing what's her name at the fence, like I still have dreams about that movie from that moment.
right.
So yeah, probably not the right shit to be seeing at that age, but hey, here I
There's
am, guys.
there's pros and cons to that, and it helped create the wonderful people that you all are today. So
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Josh.
you wouldn't be the
Thanks,
people you are if you didn't have the Terminator at 4 years old. So.
if you didn't have the trauma as a child, you wouldn't be the person you
That's
are
right.
today.
My trauma was different. Mine was religious trauma. So
Yeah.
all right, well, that was the softball question. So the hardball question. Pro-life or pro-choice?
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice.
All right, there we go. That's all we need to know. All right, on to the next subject.
So I want to touch on that for 2 seconds. Sorry, guys.
No, that's why I decided to throw questions
I
out.
have always been pro-choice, but what really cemented pro-choice was seeing Lauren struggle and us as a family struggle with that moment where you have to make that decision. Because if you have, it was either make that decision or Lauren is dead type
Yeah.
of situation. Horrible. It doesn't make it any like, yes, you want to preserve the life of the child. I get that, but the child's dead.
Yeah.
So we're going to not preserve the life of the mother and just let things go its course. Is that the God's way thing that has been being preached on the pro-life side? Fuck that, guys. Like that is ridiculous thinking. So that really cemented it. Like there will never be anything that could change that view at this point.
No, that's good to hear. I mean, I'm not saying like good to hear.
That
But
Lauren's alive? Absolutely.
understand.
Great to hear.
Hell yeah, her cooking's great.
Yes.
She knows how to throw a fucking tailgate.
Oh man, we had a
Just
deviled egg party
there.
yesterday, by the way, and we'll have to talk about that at some point because it was fucking fantastic.
Sonny showed me something along those lines on Instagram about a week or two ago, and I was,
Dude, yeah, my bowels are gonna be fucked for the next week, but it's okay.
Oh, there you go.
worth it.
Perfect.
And that's those are the best shits a week later.
So do we move to something completely different? Do we stay on the ice train but then move it up further north into Greenland? What are we feeling for our probably final 30 minutes? I mean, we don't have to deep dive into anything. We can go longer than 30 minutes. I just know 30 more minutes is usually when we cut off at.
I do want to Greenland thing. So I think Josh, you liked my post, but I made a post on Facebook. I can't take credit for the photo and the edit of it. So back in like the 1600s, when Portugal and Spain were like the two biggest world players, they signed a treaty where they essentially split the world in half, and Portugal was in charge of or owned one half, and Spain did the other. And then so I posted it on there just to kind of see what engagement I would get to, and of course, the usual suspects. But I think it was all good banter. But it was like the caption was, "If you know, you know," knowing
Yeah.
that nobody outside of myself
Who's
knew
gonna know?
about that old treaty that was written in the 1600s. But the amount of my like Portuguese friends, because we talked a little bit on one of the first podcasts, like talking politics and stuff with them.
Mhm.
Talked a little bit more recently. Actually, was at an event a little bit yesterday after the shooting happened, and then obviously what happened in Davos over the week and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
the questions that are starting to be asked are like they all know where I stand anyways, but
But
there's
you represent a country
well, I mean,
to an extent.
fortunately for them, they know who I am as a person.
Yeah.
That's something that I've noticed more here in European culture is care about who you are,
Yeah.
um, than as opposed to who you are and then what you think. Um,
Mm.
and not saying that I don't do that myself, but it was just all the Portuguese people that ended up messaging me. They were like, "Do your American friends understand that joke?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not."
I'm just seeing the post now, so I was just taking a review.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't know the history part of it, but it took me a quick 5 seconds of my own common sense, and history was always my favorite subject to be like, "Oh, okay, I get what he's saying." And then seeing the other people on there, I was like, "Oh, and I also know why you posted it." So gotta reel him in.
It's all about the
Reel him in.
clicks, baby. All about the clicks.
It's become far too I think that's why I've, Greg, you know this, like, I was all on Facebook back in when it started in FSU when I was there, like, posting left and right, all tons of dumb stuff that I had to pull my own tags off of, delete photos, everything, because I look back at it and I was like, "Holy crap," like, oversharing there, Preston.
Yeah, those were the
Um
good old days.
Yeah, and now I think that's why I don't post as much because it's exactly what you thought it was gonna be, which is you post it up there and then you're gonna get the usual suspects, to Josh's point, of it's the same people over and over that are just living on this, and I don't know, it just kind of takes away from what social media used to be to me, which was just like, "Hey, let me show my friends, a parking lot from a party where there's like
Yeah.
hundreds of solo cups just crushed."
Or just
I mean, I
finding out
think
where the party was for that night.
right.
1000%.
I think that's, we all miss that part of Facebook, and that's, what this is in society. But
Those are the good ideas.
I will say that, you know, at least for me, I've recently, and I don't know if you guys saw the post I did the other week about who I post for, and that is even before like this recent stuff. I had last over the last year, I mean, I've got hundreds of people on my friends list, but 99% of them are in a certain mindset just because that's who I grew up around. And that's fine. That actually helps me see so much of what they see and why I should not see that way. But I had enough people last year who cousins that I hadn't talked to in 20 years, friends that I grew up with as homeschoolers who I hadn't seen since I moved away, 15 years ago, had no idea what their lives were like, reach out to me and basically be like, "Hey, I've seen you post this random video or I've seen you make that." And I just want to say thank you because I'm the one person in my own family or friend group who thinks that same way, and every time I bring it up, I get attacked or I fear that I'm gonna lose relationships. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't say that to say like, "Hey, you should start posting more," or anything like that. No, but try to find those or those few people to reach out because I took it upon myself as a challenge, um last year, near the end of last year, after a couple of years, I made it a challenge to start myself reaching out to people who I thought, based off what I had seen, were on the same week, and just give words of encouragement. And I remember reaching out to a cousin of mine, who again I had not seen since we were probably 12, but I had seen enough of her post She'd gone into the military. I think she was in the Air Force. She got married, and I had seen enough to be like, okay, I think we're on the same kind of wavelength with things. And I simply sent an encouraging, hey, I just want to say that and I'm her older cousin. Like I'm probably 6 years older than her. Hey, it's been great seeing you grow as a person, and I want to encourage you to continue. And if you ever need anything, reach out. And that just kinda opened the floodgates for her, basically, because she immediately responded back. Because 'cause
That's awesome.
I'd also seen what her dad posted every day, and I was like,
Oof.
"Ugh." I know conversation at home isn't gonna be great at Thanksgiving, so it was, I definitely encourage anybody, if you're listening, reach out to the people, and don't if you're alone, you're not, there's always somebody out there, so
Good shit, Joshua.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I was just thinking about that, the family dynamic. I That's probably far more widespread,
yeah,
and I'm gonna say something terrible. I have the advantage of most of my family being dead, where it those conversations don't have to happen or
yeah,
take place at this point, right? And I don't have to worry about it. And the majority of my family that's left is Lawrence, and we're here, right?
yeah.
Um, that's that's gotta be wild. I can't even imagine what that is, sitting around family at Thanksgiving and Christmas gatherings and living in this world and having to deal and battle with those conversations. I cannot imagine.
It's actually not as bad now, and, I mean, to your point of, like, family members being dead, my mom died from cancer, 5, 6 years ago, and there are times when I'm like, I'm kinda glad she's not around to see where we have become as a society. I have a very good feeling that she would hopefully be more on not necessarily agree with everything that I agree with, but at least be more human, kindness and
Yes.
stuff. But there's another part of me that's like, I also know the people that she surrounded herself with, and they're not like that. And so I mean, I'm when I do go home with family and talk with my siblings and dad, I mean, they definitely have those political leanings, but thankfully they're not ones to kind of bring it up. I've got one sister who doesn't matter if it's a happy birthday, if it's a whatever, it's some sort of Trump related, you know, thing. And she hasn't even been old enough to vote yet.
And yeah, and you tell her,
And
"Go get a life." Jesus Christ.
why are you wearing the socks? Why are you why are you so this and yet he has done nothing to you. But yeah. I mean, growing up, my biggest thing would have been religion. And I mean, I grew up during the times when it didn't matter what conversation came up or the amount of screenshots and posts on Facebook of Obama being the Antichrist. Daddy. Oh, fatherhood. Greg, you're gonna get there one day. You're right around the corner.
Yeah. So, well, right around 2 years away from around the corner. It's a journey, but,
It'll oh,
it's a we'll see how it goes.
it'll be good. It'll be fun. But yeah, no, I mean, growing up, I mean, the amount of times I've seen things people talking about Obama being the Antichrist or, just all the I mean, even right now, certain people that will post on my Facebook and then I go back and look through their threads and every other post that's not political is something about revelations, the end of the world, and these are the signs and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, oh, whew.
Yeah. I
It,
mean, yeah, people are gonna live in the hell that that they create. It's
mhm,
um now religion isn't something like I we went to church every Sunday, went to Sunday school when I still lived in New York.
yeah,
My dad grew up in Italian Catholic, um, but as as an adult, he never went to church. And then when we moved to Florida, I started going to church in like fifth grade, but that was just because a couple of my
social,
my couple of
yeah,
my best friends were going. So and then I think maybe it's like sophomore year in high school, I went to like youth group for like 6 months because one of the girls I liked was there, so it was an excuse to go hang out with her outside of work or outside of school and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, religion's an interesting thing to me. Just how people can so devoutly, and like this isn't even anything to do with like political side of things, but like
Yeah.
just how people can so devoutly have faith in something. Like I respect it, like that somebody can believe in something so so fully and it,
Mhm.
dictate their thoughts and their moves and just that level of dedication is I have a hard time understanding it. And it's just coming from, the scripture. But then obviously there's the juxtaposition of the hypocrisy of it all and there's everything that you read in it, then you're just picking and choosing what again fits your narrative and
Correct.
what works for you at that specific time. Because their thoughts on that thing 6 years ago is probably different than what it is now, and they can just go find a different verse in a different part of the Bible to justify their thinking of it now.
The connection between religious beliefs and followings really is fascinating and almost in a political lens, in the sense we follow people who in politics, you follow a charismatic leader or someone you want someone to, not me, but people want someone to tell them, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what it is. These are the rules," and everything like that. And that same kind of authority is what they're getting out of religion as well. It's not just reading of the scripture, because surprisingly, or not surprisingly, most people that we know or have interacted with, and people that call themselves Christians, or even people that go to church, don't actually really read the Bible. They read what the pastor tells them to read that particular Sunday, and they listen and they follow what that particular man. Obviously, everyone knows I read through the Bible multiple times. I memorized. I could quote at one point in time, not anymore, but I could quote at one point in time the whole book of James from start to finish in original King James.
Is that
Um,
something you put on your resume, Josh?
I used to
Depending
when I
on the area.
and it actually got me jobs in the very beginning.
Oh my gosh.
And the book of Romans. I because due to where I was at in the time, those were requirements I had to do, and it wasn't until I moved to Florida, got out of that kind of group, and I went to Johnny O. Quigley's one night, first time drinking, and met some new people and befriended someone who kind of didn't really grow up in that, but at least had a lot of knowledge about it, to inform me one day when we were talking about Bible stuff. And he was like, "Hey, you do know that hell, what they teach us about hell, you die and go to hell, is never mentioned in the Bible. Like, that's a revelation. That's the end of the world. At the end of in Revelation, it says, then the fiery pits of hell and blah, blah." And I was like, "What? That's not true. How can that be true?" I've read it. I'm pretty sure I saw hell somewhere in there, and preachers and parents and everybody else has told me that. And then, yeah, no, go back and look, and yeah, there's outside of Revelation talking about the end of the world, and then people get cast into the fiery pits. There
Yeah.
is no mention of, hey, when you die right now, you go to hell. It's not a thing. That was created by Catholicism, man, hundreds of years later, to, you could say, hey, maybe it was to help people,
Keep the thumb on them. And
but that's exactly.
yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, that's where like buying politics got its base from was,
yeah,
oh, we can do this with the church. Now let me see what I can do and frame it as like we're here to help you. I mean, yeah, I
correct.
mean it's the same playbook in my
And
eyes.
when you look at a lot of what this administration specifically, my worry is with Christian nationalism on the rise. So much of what I grew up seeing and being taught and pushed and kind of building is now coming to fruition.
Yeah.
Because I was growing up, and I joke sometimes of being in a cult growing up, and that was because I was with an organization called IBLP, which was part of a documentary that came out a couple years ago. And I remember being sent to these little camp type things that were 6 weeks long, and it was meant to build character and blah blah blah. And they were all training me and others to learn these thoughts and beliefs and to radicalize in this sense. And then they were training to be put to then go forward into positions of government. Like that was their ultimate goal. And they had him put
Embedded.
Indianapolis. Yeah, Indianapolis was one of their headquarters, and I remember seeing they were promoting this like at their conferences in front of thousands. They'd be like, "Hey, we now have for this weekend's conference, we have the governor of Indiana, here because he is going to be instituting and putting into their curriculum our basic principles of our organization." I know Mike Pence was part of that back during that time. They did things with outside governments. It was crazy. And so growing up, seeing all that and now seeing what some of the things that were going on in the background, especially like stuff when Project 2025 was
Mhm.
being talked about. I was like, yeah, no, I grew up seeing people promoting and pushing that, and their whole goal in life was to make this happen. So it doesn't surprise me when these policies are being made and people going into put in positions of power that I'm like, ugh. Yeah, it's been a
I
plan
see
all
that
along.
red herring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this shit's tough.
Did we lose Preston?
I don't. I mean, I imagine he's got some dad duties that
Yeah,
he's running off to.
it's probably around that time for him.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, guys.
hey, no worries. I
I'm
figured
keeping it all in my headphones here, but yes, there is some math homework that's being done, and
no, you're good.
she's reached the stage where she probably needs to take a break. So
No, that's good. We can get ready to close it out here. Remember, everybody, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the channel. So we'll catch back up on this next time. So